Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I want to welcome you to the special meeting of the Morganton City Council for June 20th, 2011, and this is the public hearing on our budget for the year 2011-2012. And I'm going to go ahead and open up the public hearing. I'll tell you the ground rules that we'll have. I'll open the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak after Sally turns it over, come to either podium, and it's written down on the podium, I believe, to state your name and where you reside. Very important, because we've got to keep a legal record of who's speaking and where you're from. And either podium is fine, and we'll have people, if there's a question, we'll have people that'll answer your question for you. We appreciate you coming, and we know there's a concern because I've heard about it. And the public hearing is open. Sally?
Mm-hmm. The budget has been out now since June 1st, and at the June council meeting, we talked in detail about what is included in the budget that you'll be considering tonight. The highlights of that are that the total budget is $63.7 million, the largest majority of that being the electric fund. The electric fund is $31 million of that amount. The general fund, which is the fund where general government operations, the things that we most touch and know about every day, public safety, recreation, building inspections, administration, those kinds of things, a little over $18 million. That's 5% less than last year's. The budget before you does not recommend any change in the ad valorem tax rate. It's recommended to stay at 46 cents per $100 value. Also, no recommended change in the municipal service district tax of 14 cents per $100 value. It does include in it some changes to the schedule of fees and charges and some amendments to that, and one of those is the change in the privilege license fees for the flat privilege license charge. Includes some changes to some fees at comma and some changes in our funding of our multi-jurisdictional partners, the library, the BDI, the Burke Development Group, the Morganton, Lenoir, Caldwell County, Burke County Airport Partnership, and also some changes to the things that we fund with other entities. The total, again, for the general fund budget is a little over $18 million. The capital proposed in these budgets are very small capital programs, include replacing some equipment that is aging, that is necessary to replace, and that is really about it. There are no large projects included in this, except for in the utility funds. We have a significant project proposed at the water plant, and that is to upgrade the sediment basins and the filter media part of the plant. We'll tell you that we just received a letter from the state last week for an inspection that they've done out there, and those two things are on the list of items they have asked us to take a look at. The electric fund, no increase in water rates is the other highlight to the water fund. The electric fund, like I said, is $31 million of the $63 million. That represents a 7% increase, even though the operating costs that we control went down. We are receiving an increase in the wholesale power cost, and that is a large, significant cost for us. The recommended rate increase there is 6.5%. And that is to cover the cost of the electric fund and the operations of that. I will remind you that in February, the mayor received a letter from the State and Local Government Finance Division of the Local Government Commission in Raleigh, and that letter was based on their review of our 2010 financial statements, and it dealt with the overall condition of the electric fund. It cited the losses shown in the electric fund for last fiscal year, and I will read to you from that letter. The board must evaluate the performance of this fund and make the changes necessary to improve financial operations and sustainability. Rates and rate structure should be evaluated and adjusted to provide coverage for at least system operating cost, including debt service. And so part of the passing on the rate is to do exactly what we've been instructed to do by the State Department that looks over our finances and tells us what we can and cannot do to some extent. The wastewater fund includes some capital continuing with the dewatering project and the improvements at the waste treatment plant that we've been talking about for a couple of years now. That is about a $4.5 million budget. Compass Cable, $4.3 million, and Compass Cable is completely in the black and is including in this budget an opportunity to begin to pay back the loans that it received from the electric fund and the general fund and the capital reserve fund, and that's a very positive move for them. Does include a recommended $3 a month increase in the January billing for cable to coincide with the increases in our programming costs that we receive each year from our programming contracts. The other highlights, it does eliminate the 2% furlough for the employees that have gone on for the current fiscal year we're in and the one previous to that. It includes 44 frozen positions, and it includes a contribution from retirees who qualify and active current employees toward the health insurance that is provided for those people. And it also includes a change to the longevity policy of the city that would state that you have to be here 5 years before you would qualify for any longevity. Those are the highlights. I'm glad to answer questions.
Very good. Thank you, Sally. Any questions of Sally, council? All right, the public hearing is open, as I opened it up a few minutes ago. Either podium you'd like to go to, and state your name and where you reside.
Yeah, my name's Lawrence Engel, and I reside at 3051 Village Drive. And this is in reference to the privilege license fees. That there was an article that was printed up on June 1st in reference to proposals to quadruple from $25 to $100 this fee. This question, I guess, is in a way with Sally, is that in here it says that it's been decades and since the city's privilege fees were changed, and the city officials believe Morganton should get in line with the other cities. Who was it that called the other cities to find out what they charge? Okay, can you answer that one?
Sure, glad to. We have folks on staff in our finance department and in our tax department that have contacted other places. It is across the board what cities do with privilege licenses.
Was it New York City, L.A., or what? I mean...
No, mostly North Carolina.
This is Roger Lane. He's the owner of Exhausted Rooster. Roger, could you please give them a list of 36...
Oh, just a few minutes, and I'll let you talk. You want to walk over here, if you would, and as soon as he finishes, you can state your name, where you reside.
What I'm going to say is that Roger had called 36 surrounding cities. Of that 36, only 3 others charge anything at all. From Goldsboro, which is $50, and then 2 others that were $25 each. I don't know what cities they were calling around us to come up with $100 and quadruple the fee for people that are struggling to make ends meet and do that for the little people. I mean, that's what we're here about. I mean, you got people at the Jamestown Flea Market, as well as Exhausted Rooster and any of the other antique stores that have, you know, dealers in there that pay their $25, and a lot of them won't be able to go ahead and continue if they pay that. I think it should be rescinded altogether myself, but definitely should not be quadrupled or increased in any way whatsoever. That's all I have to say at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Engel. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Now state your name, where you reside.
I'm Roger Lane. I live out in Burke County, but I own Exhausted Rooster Antiques in Morgan.
Where's it? What's your address of that business?
1903 South Sterling Street's my business address. It's in regards to what he just talked about the privilege license fee. I don't know how many people you called or cities you called, but I called 36. And out of the 36, not including Morgan, I included Morgan on here, 3 required privilege license.
You want to state those 3?
Let's see, Boone, Salisbury, and Greensboro. Then you have Morgan's included too, and Greensboro is the $50 fee, and it's up to $10,000 in sales a year is what it covers. And all the other ones are covered under my business license that I buy, which I pay $200 a year for to have my business. Okay, and you're looking at quite a few that don't require it at all.
I
They're
understand.
covered with privilege license. Some of them are covered under hobbyists or just basically a few things. I have several printouts. Would y'all like to have one?
Sure.
Please.
I typed all this up and
Thank you.
Thank you much.
I did some sketching power
Thank you, sir.
of, I did just the city and I called around the shops and those businesses. in town.
Appreciate it.
As you can see, there's quite a few towns there. They're from Franklin, North Carolina, all the way to Raleigh. And Raleigh doesn't require privilege license in the big antique malls down there. The flea market doesn't require one down there. So,
This is,
and you're talking Hickory, none of the Hickory malls do. Hickory flea market doesn't. So you're looking at just a few that
what do you call the city and talk to the city?
No, I called businesses personally and asked them if they were required by the city to have a privilege license for their dealers. And that's the statements that I got from them. You can read all this. And, like I say, it's just a little bit too much. You're hitting the poor man. A lot of people all people in my shop are over 50 years old. I've got one that's in there with his father. And they're on limited income. They're doing it for a hobby. They're not doing it to make a killing. They're not doing it to make any money. Basically, it's just something to do. And I've done been told by 20% of my dealers, if it happens, they're gone. And I know some flea market people that's going to leave too. So if they 20% or more than that leave, you're shutting my business down. You're going to be shutting some other ones down. So you're doing basically something that's going to take away from the city what you're already getting. You think about the money that you're going to be bringing in from your increase. What, it's $37,000, something like that?
37.
37,000?
Yes, 37, yeah.
That affects 370 people, basically at a $100 increase. That's what it comes down to.
Your people work, what, 2 days a week?
My people, no, I run the shop, I sell for them.
Oh, so you're open basically 7 days a week?
I'm in there 6 days a week. I'm closed on Mondays. That's what I close to do whatever. But I'm in there, I run the shop, I sell for them, they keep their booths up. They bring their merchandise in and put a price on it and set it.
Right.
That's it. They're not actually in there with the business. So you look at my point of view versus y'all's point of view, it's totally different. So there's a lot of stuff you need to think a little bit more on this because you're going to shut a lot of people down. And it's not just mine. There's some other small businesses downtown that don't pay the $100, that pay a little bit less, and it's going to affect them too. It won't affect me personally as far as my business license, but it affects all my vendors and a whole lot of other people. But I appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate you coming. State your name,
Good
Ward.
evening, folks. Bob Goodchild, 208 Edgewood Circle, Morganton, North Carolina. I've been in this beautiful city for 30 years, and we love it. It's a wonderful town. I'm a vendor at Jamestown, been there for 11 years. And like a lot of my friends, we're all hurting. And I'm not afraid, personally, myself, I have a fairly decent business where I could afford the $100. But like my friend just said over here, and I agree completely what he says, it's the little guy that comes in with a few dollars worth of produce or a few dollars worth of clothing or something that wants to sell. If he has to put out $100, he's not going to come. Jamestown Flea Market is a very large flea market, and it could lose all the vendors. Now, my suggestion, and there's other ways you can figure it, and anybody else has a suggestion, that's what we're here for, is I understand that we're in a credit crunch. For the city, I know you need money. Personally, and I'm not endorsing or not endorsing, but I'm saying what I'm willing to do, I'm willing to pay $50 for a privilege license, because I have a decent business I've built over the years. But little guy that comes in, mom and pop, comes in once a month to make a few bucks, he can't afford that. The alternative, my suggestion to the little guy, if you have to do this, and it's always up to you if you have to do it, you add $3 sales tax charge on each vendor that comes in when he comes in. He's not required to do it for the year. He can do it by the month, or he could do it by the year, so he doesn't have to come up. $100 for a little guy nowadays is a lot of money. And that way it would not close down flea markets, which are bringing a lot of people here. I've been here for many years, and amazes me when I go down Main Street of this town how many people have gone out of business. And the place out there by the Taco Bell out there, they were here before I was. And that big cement place, you know what I'm talking about? They've gone out of business. And I know you guys want to do the right thing for the company. Mr. Cohen's been here for a long time, and they may much like you, you wouldn't be here. But what I'm concerned about is a little guy trying to survive. If you walk into a flea market and say, I'm sorry, you got to go to the city and get a $100 license before you can sell anything in here, they're going to lose, what, 100, 200 vendors? How many vendors we have at the flea market out there?
Over 240 vendors.
So if you're a permanent vendor, I can understand it. That's in the building. I'm in the building, and I can understand doing that. But what worries me is if you hit these little guys that are just coming in for a week or 2 weeks or something like that, and they got clothing and used stuff and stuff, you could get your money right there as far as your money wants to go. Charge them a little service fee, make the flea market manager take care of that, and you're still going to get some tax, but it's not on one lump. Because if you got to say, hey, I got to have $100 before you can set up, you're going to give them a heart attack. And basically, that's all I wanted to say. I love Morganton. I love everybody. I know we're having problems, but if we work together, we can resolve them, and I just wanted to put my input in it.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you for your time, sir.
Appreciate it. State your name and where you reside, sir.
My name, Charles D. Lambert Sr. I reside at 105 Sarah Lane, Morganton. I have 2 interactions with the city, one as a flea market vendor and the other one as a president of the Morganton Coin Club. My coin club meets or has a show once a year, and I had 9 vendors to come in last year, and we all paid about $87 or $85 altogether. But this year, my vendors would not pay the $100 per vendor. And what I'm asking is to prorate the 1 day. The flea market fee of $25 to $100, I'm with the other people, and I think it would hurt everybody. And I know the city needs money, and I know the people that's already established at the flea market are going to continue to be established, and I've been on the flea market for 30 years. I tried a 1-day downtown shop for 1 day. I had 1 customer that wanted to see what a buffalo nickel looked like, and I shut it down. I went back to the flea market.
Charles, let me ask you a question. Sorry to you said when you had a coin show.
Coin
Vendor-
show once a year here in Morganton at the
Those
college.
vendors that come in would not have to pay a privilege license. If they're only coming in once a year for a weekend show,
Weekend show.
As far as I know, they wouldn't have to pay.
I think they have to show, they have to
Show
be
3 times.
more than 3 times,
I'm
but
going to ask Lamina to address that.
Lamina is with our tax office.
Hi there. Technically, those vendors that do come in for like a show or something like that, I mean, they definitely could pay the $25 privilege license.
Even though they don't work 3 days.
What, you know, if they, it definitely could be charged.
Sandy let us
But
out last year for $12.50 for each vendor. And I know of only one other show across the North Carolina that has this charge as a vendor license fee, and that's Iredell Statesville.
But a vendor at the flea market would have to sell more than 3 times?
The vendors at the flea market, and we sort of rely on the administration of the flea market to help us keep up with the vendors. And what they do is they allow, because they do have some people that come in and sell yard sale type items. And they do allow those people to set up an outside booth, more so a yard sale type item, 3 times before that they actually refer them to come and get a business license. So I guess it's the difference between actually establishing a retail business and selling those more so like, you know, the yard sale type items that people come just maybe one time, you know, once in a lifetime thing, I'm going to take my stuff to the flea market.
Go ahead, Charles.
That's all I have, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Wakefield, state your name and where you reside.
I'm Janelle Wakefield. I reside at 311 West Union Street. My business is at 208 Carbon City Road, so I'm well entrenched in the city of Morganton. I'm here to back up the small business person. I consider myself a small business person, and as Roger has said, I know Roger very well. I even have a little booth at his antique shop because over the years, I love to buy things at auction. And then you end up with more than you can use, so, you know, it gives me a means of being able to get rid of it, basically. But business for everybody's tough. I've seen it with the real estate business, you know, people having trouble, and I think about the flea market and those vendors, and if a lot of people weren't able to buy at the flea market, they may not be able to go to Walmart, can't afford new. And it does put in jeopardy the life of the small business. And that's what this city's been based on for years. And if we don't encourage small businesses to operate, you know, we'll just end up being at the mercy of the big box store. And I believe in individual business, and I believe in the city of Morganton. And I do hope you'll do the right thing and not increase this privilege tax. It is a burden. And the state of North Carolina charges $50 for my privilege license, and I think $100 is just exorbitant. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
I'm Debbie Vite. I live at 1309 Airport Road, Hiss Road. I have been
Tell me your last name again.
Debbie Vite,
Spell that for me.
V-I-T-E.
Thank you.
I've been in the flea market now for about 7 years. And yes, the flea market has tragically dropped. And I'm one of them that has got a large quantity of stuff to where I can't exactly pack it up in the backyard and leave it sitting. I've got to get it sold. I've got to keep my business going. And I cannot afford this $100 tax that they're wanting to put out. I mean, I've lived around here 47 years in Burke County. And I can remember being a child, we had factories everywhere. Now, this was a factory. Now, we barely have probably 10 factories hidden in corners here and there. You know, people around here are basically no work. And this, I really don't think is right, that they're gonna, send our work to other countries and then try to tax us because our county or our state goes down. This is really wrong. This is about like closing our schools, telling our kids, let's put 40 kids in a classroom. How well is 40 kids going to learn in one classroom? So really I wish you would truly deeply think about this, because honestly, the talk is around Jamestown, if you want to do this, if you want to put this big tax on us, about 75% of Jamestown is going to I-40, where they will not be taxed. So the 25 you's getting now, that I could see maybe you's raised to 30. You's are gonna end up losing the whole 25. And a lot of people's not gonna be willing to go in there and do it. So, I mean, I wish you's would truly deeply think about what the government has done, not what we've done. We didn't ask for our jobs to be rushed out of here. We didn't ask for our sales to drop. I used to make $300 a weekend. I barely clear 150 now. And that's a very good weekend. There's a lot of weekends I walk out there, and I think this weekend I done $60. And that's selling work clothes, stuff that people have to have every single day, whether they work or not. I mean, you know, truly think about this, because you's are hurting yourselves as bad as you're hurting others, because there's plenty of flea markets out of the city limits that we can go to.
Ms. Veit, do you sell your wares every weekend at the flea market?
Yes,
So, okay, 352 weeks a year.
yeah.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, it's a regular means of keeping my head above water. But I mean, it's getting now to where that's barely what I'm doing, is keeping my head above water. If I can get rid of what I got, I probably would close down, but till I can get rid of what I got to keep going. But, you know, if you's are gonna put even, I can't afford it. If you's raise this to $100, I'm either gonna have to find another flea market or another way of selling. I will not be able to pay the 100. I'm sorry, I just won't. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Wall.
My name's Edward Wall. I live in Jonas Ridge. My family runs the Jamestown Flea Market, and it moves me a lot to hear the people out here speaking tonight. It really does. I know from Wall Lumber Company's point of view, raising the privilege license really won't affect us that much. But when I hear the difference it makes in these people's lives, I just need to say that I really do think that it affects them, the small business person, much more disproportionately than it does someone that a mid-sized company like we could really afford. And I really do think these people's point of view really needs to be considered before this rate is raised.
Thank you, Eddie. Yes, ma'am.
My name's Denise Melton. I live at 248 Cedar Grove Church Road in Vale. We have checked out several flea markets. I lost my job in March. My husband's disabled. We started our own business, a small business. We've checked out flea markets from Dallas to Asheville. This is the only flea market that we even have to have a privilege license for. And if we have to buy, if y'all raise it to 100 and we have to pay that, we will not continue at the flea market, because we don't make enough there to even, I mean, this is the money that we use to buy us groceries every week. Or that we're, yeah, when we're at the flea markets.
Thank you, ma'am.
What was your name, ma'am?
My name's Denise Melton.
Denise Melton.
Hello, my name's Rich D. Augustinus. I live in Nebo, but have run a business here in Morganton at 114 Dixie Boulevard, Packaging Corporation of America. I had the pleasure and apparently responsibility of serving on a committee with a bunch of other business people to help the city look at their revenue generating and cutting costs. I was lucky enough to be on the revenue generating rather than the cost cutting. And our little subcommittee actually recommended the $100, the increase in the fee schedule. And it all started when, in December of 2010, City Council had voted on a new fee schedule, which put a tremendous burden on manufacturing and retail businesses that sold in excess of $1 million. And it was an incredible difference. Our intent was to actually protect local retailers and local manufacturers by limiting the privilege license fee, yet raising some additional money for the city, which was much needed. We obviously thought long and hard about a lot of people, but I can't say that we thought about the people that work in flea markets and have their businesses, and the really very small business people. So I commend all the people that are here, as I was 6 months ago or so with a group of people protesting the original privilege license fee. You have every right to be here and protest and state your opinions, and I hope that the council will hear your words and act accordingly and what they can. But I want you to know that the recommendation did come from a citizens volunteer advisory committee, as it was. And I would be honest in saying that not every particular situation was thought through, but that's why you have public hearings. So again, I appreciate everybody being here, but the intent was actually to help the city raise money, and fees are going to be a big part of the cities and counties and states' abilities to raise money and the lack of property tax revenues and sales tax revenues as they've gone down in the recession. But again, we did not look at the impact it would have on every person, and that's why you have public hearings and the opportunity for people to speak like you are today. So I just wanted to explain that. Thank you.
Thank you, Rich.
Can I speak again?
Sure. State your name one more time. Excuse me, Michael. I'm sorry.
One thing that maybe some people don't understand, that is a flea market man works 2 days a week. A business in town works 6 days a week. So charging somebody who works 2 days a week, the same as you charge somebody who's 106 days a week, is kind of disproportionate. Like I said earlier, I have no problem with you raising it some, because I understand we got to get a little more income. But be gentle as you can, because as you heard all of our friends out there, we're all trying to survive. I'm a Mr. Mom at 72 years old. I'm raising 2 teenagers. I'm surviving because God's given me the wisdom to do so, but it's not easy. That's basically what I want to say, and thank you for your listening.
Thank you, Bob.
You're welcome.
Michael.
Well, Mayor, fellow council, I'm Michael McNally with the Chamber of Commerce, and I want to echo what Rich said. Is I've served with Rich and a few others on this committee to help to look at ways for the city. We know the cost of business continually increases, and the cost of providing services to citizens and businesses continually increases for municipalities all across the country. One question I have, I came up here wanting to restate what Rich said, but now I have a question after hearing a lot of these people speak. There's been, in my mind, some conflicting information. I know Hickory was mentioned, but Hickory has a business privilege license fee, but maybe they don't charge. How does this work with vendors, the temporary vendors? And part of this is just my ignorance, for lack of a better word, on, antique stores, vendors, flea markets, and how that all works. But how does the city get any choice in how to charge vendors, or is that maybe a disconnect here that could possibly help both sides of the fence? Is there a little clarification on how that fee is charged?
Well, I'm going to save you a lot of answers that you're going to get from us, okay? I'm going to propose that for individual businesses at flea markets, we'll only pay $40 a year, okay, instead of $100. I'm not going to ask, does that meet everybody's approval, because I couldn't find 10 people to stand up in 200 that would all agree on everything. But regular businesses in Morganton will continue to pay, when it goes up July 1, to the $100 that work, like you say, the multiple days a week. But whether we looked at flea markets or not, I depended upon a private group to do that, and it was given to us, and we went to 100, and we didn't go beyond the individual amount of money. We didn't go to the percentages for bigger boxes at this point. But I'm proposing, and we'll do that in our process today, is that people at flea markets will only pay $40 a year. And I mean, if you don't agree, I can't help that. But I'm going to make that in the form of a motion that it be placed in our budget now, that flea market vendors, now you hear me, not trying to see if there's any retailers, not Eddie Wall's Wall Lumber Company, they'll pay $100 July 1.
And not the Jamestown, and not, I want to understand this, and not the Jamestown Road Flea Market, I mean, that would stay at the 200. You're talking
Yeah.
about the vendors
Individual
within.
vendors.
Within, vendors within,
Trying to understand.
okay?
I
Works
think
the
that's
same.
the same
Same
thing,
thing.
right?
We're not gonna have multiple rates, and,
I know that, I got another thing you can think about. You got all your businesses, okay, in the whole town, anybody pays over $100 for their privilege license. Why not go up on them 15, 20%? I'd be willing to go up 20%.
I appreciate your
That's,
comments.
that would save, that'd get you more money.
Well, I appreciate your comment. You're mighty nice to say that, but we're gonna crawl before we walk.
Oh, yeah.
And,
Well, you need to conclude your public
Yeah.
hearing before you
Yeah.
start
Yeah.
making motions.
Yeah.
I think you did very, very well. God bless you.
all right. Anyone have any different things to say?
Yeah.
State your name and where you reside.
I'm Judy Gunter, and I've worked at Jamestown Flea Market for 28 years. And people come by my booth all the time, and I say, "How did you do today?" I say, "Well, I made $2, or I made $5. And the flea market has been really great. They have never, ever gone up on our rent. If they had, so many of the people that have worked there for so many years could never have made it, ever. Because you may drive by and see a lot of cars, but that doesn't mean the people are doing any business. And I can tell you unequivocally that they are not. Last week I went in the hole $37. There's just, the economy is really still bad, and people are not making the money that they think they are. We have to go up against so much. If there's a festival in Morganton, we don't make any money. If there's a fair somewhere, we don't make any money. And I'm not just talking about Burke County. I'm talking about all the counties that we pull from. And so I got to thinking, you know, I see so many people getting the services from the county. They don't work. They go and have children. They're on welfare. They don't try to take care of themselves, and then the county does it for them. What is wrong with cutting fees? Because the way they're doing this, it's like Robin Hood in reverse. You're robbing from the poor and you're giving to the rich. And that's the way I feel about it, and that's the way I see it. Because I'm out here working, and I'm paying for a lot of people who aren't. And I deeply, deeply resent that. I just see too much of it. And it needs to stop, not only in Burke County, but across this nation. They need to realize that people are not working, and the ones who are supporting the others. And a lot of you need to come out to Jamestown Flea Market and just work for 1 month. And the whole thing would change. I'm sure of it. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm gonna,
Can I say one thing?
yeah, Bob.
This is for my friends out there that are not selling new merchandise. Are they going to be allowed to people like to come to the flea market? They just say they're selling junk, they don't have any new merchandise, and like you said, they come 2 or 3 times, or they come maybe they come once a month or whatever. Are they going to be excluded, or are they going to have to buy the $40
If they
license?
come once a month and they come 12 months,
Yeah,
they're gonna have to buy
okay.
$40.
So $40, well, okay.
Yeah, anything over 3 times.
Anything over 3 times?
Yes.
All right, I want to say that so I can share that with my
Sure,
friends. That's
sure.
what I want to do. I think you've been very fair, and we do thank you for listening tonight.
Thank you, Bob.
sir. Appreciate it.
It's closed. Ma'am, I closed it.
Well,
Thank you. You wanna say something? If you got something different to say, go ahead,
Well, I just got one question I wanted to ask.
because we tape it.
I just got one question I want to ask. Why are the small companies, small businesses being gone up on when yours was not willing to go up on the rich businesses?
We're going up to $100 on all the other businesses.
Because I know the hearing's already been done with the big businesses, and, I mean, they had something other to say that.
No, we didn't. We put it off. It will be done sometime in the future by another council.
Okay, because what I was hearing,
No.
yours had already done it, and they had convinced you that going up on them
No,
wasn't really
no, that will be,
acceptable.
we're doing it, we're crawling before we walk. We picked the first amount of money, and we didn't do the other one. That'll be up to a different future city council to do that.
And the guy was speaking a while ago. I have been around the Hickory 70, the fair, the Fairground Flea Market, and no, they do not charge this tax.
Okay, thank you, ma'am, I appreciate it. Public hearing is closed, and I'll make it in the form of a motion that for individuals at flea markets that work more than 3 times during a year, will pay $40 privilege license fee. And all other fees will be the same, going to $100. Now, Eddie, you know, the Jamestown Flea Market will continue to pay their amount. Okay.
Second motion.
Mr. Mayor, can we actually use the terminology specialty market vendor? to
Yeah,
maybe be
specialty
consistent
market vendor,
with the-
okay.
With the way it's in the statute?
It's in, yeah, that's in, all right. I have a motion, I have a second.
Discussion.
Discussion.
Okay. If I'm correct on this, we're talking about a $40 fee per year, which means that there are 52 weeks in every year. So that computes up to be 76 cents per week. 76 cents per week. Does that sound like a fair and reasonable amount? Well, if we looked at it the other way, and it was $100 that we had proposed that we would charge, then that would compute up over a 52-week period of time, would be $1.92 a week. But everybody seems to think that would be totally unreasonable. $1.92 per week, which, so,
No, let's move.
so
Let Bob,
the
let's-
72 cents per week is very, 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 very reasonable, I would think.
where we're made a mistake in the city of Morganton is we went from 1960 approximately to 2011 and didn't do anything. And I know we have a gentleman, maybe he may have already gone, about the electric, complain about our electric rates, which will come up later, or it's in the budget. But, you know, we're the 3rd lowest electric rate in the state of North Carolina of 51 cities. You know, we're never going to be totally pleasing to every individual and every citizen. We've got a city here that is a good city. We provide excellent services. I go back to Hugo every time, is that when Hugo came through here, we were out of electricity 6 hours, and there were people on Duke Power in the city limits of Morganton were 6 days. If you look at the electric of what we do, our electric department, on how well we turn on electricity or keep our electricity on, which is 99.9% of the time in every home in the city of Morganton, your electricity is on. But we're not going to please everybody, and we're not aware of the hardship it would place. We change tonight. Who says an elected bunch cannot change? And the more expensive group of retailers will pay something in the future, possibly with another city council. That's all I can tell you. Let's move on. Any other discussion on the city council?
Mr. Mayor, you got 2 items going here.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you got a motion that deals just with
That one.
With that
the
one.
privilege license
I gotta
thing,
get
and
a
then
motion.
you got your general discussion on the budget.
Okay.
Okay.
We haven't had a vote on the motion yet, right?
No.
All in favor? Say aye. Opposed? Okay, that one individual item.
And so that would be included in the schedule of fees and charges as we just voted.
That's right, that's right.
We in agreement with that?
Yeah, 49, yes.
Okay.
Yes. Okay, now, the budget. The $63.7 million budget. And I make a motion that we approve the budget.
Second.
And we have a second. We have discussion.
I've got to ask Sally something. I don't understand how your
Okay.
budget's out of balance now.
Well, we're just gonna leave it like that, and then we'll either make it up in revenues some other way, not spend something, or amend it throughout the year. Because, I mean, it's a guess anyway.
Well, I understand that.
Okay, that
But-
line item is a guess, okay? I mean, it's an estimated number, and so I say we leave it.
Well, I mean, if you think about it, with 190 flea market vendors, that's our best approximation, and you're talking about a difference of $35. So, I mean, you're not talking about enough money. I mean, budgets are obviously estimated, educated guesses, so, I mean, I think we'll be fine to not change anything.
Now, as we go through and monitor revenues and things, if we adjust that down throughout the year, then we're gonna have to either adjust a corresponding expense down or figure some other revenue. I mean, one or the other. I mean, see, ad valorem taxes are budgeted, Steve, and we budget them this year, but we got $178,000 less than what we budgeted in the current year we're operating in.
No, I understand that concept, but you've made a specific change to a specific line item, and you
Well,
don't have a corresponding
What we're
change now.
No, we're
But
not
that's all right.
changing the line item in the budget, we're changing the schedule of fees and charges. That's why I just said what I said, because what we're changing is not the budget. My understanding, what we're changing is the line in the schedule of fees and charges that says $100 for the wording is specialty market vendors. So technically, that is an amendment to the schedule of fees and charges. Correct?
Specialty market vendors. Mike Irvin, you wrote that down? That's like advisory. Remember.
Does Sydney understand that too?
We did not change the budget at all. We only changed that particular fee in the schedule of fees and charges.
Are you satisfied?
Well, I'm satisfied.
All right. Any discussion on the budget? You know, all the midst of a lot of talk, which was good talk, good discussion from citizens of Morganton, Burke County, and Cleveland County, I want to say that this budget, in hard times, and because everybody's having hard times everywhere, in hard times, this budget is an amazing budget, mainly because we didn't have $1 million worth of people that we had last year when we started. Basically, we don't have it this year when we start our new year, July 1. Every department head worked under Sally's advised words during staff meetings. Every department head gave Karen a budget, the budget cuts that were needed, the 5% that were needed in departments that needed to come to help out our city, but yet no city services will be cut. It's an unbelievable statement to make. We may take us a little longer to mow Freedom Park, may take us a little longer to mow the strip grass on Green Street, but they'll get mowed. And I think it is saying a lot about the city of Morganton, because I may only be here another few months, and the same way with everybody on the city, or 3 of us on the city council. But I'm proud of Karen, Sally, I'm proud of the department heads, all the employees that stepped up to the plate, that are doing the works that they need to do to make this a great city. And in times that are tough, we are a great city. And I will argue sometime at a debate on why I think this is a great city to live in and raise a family in. Our school system raised my 3 children. We have great teachers, and they got a great education. So I want you to know that I'm proud of our staff and all for what they did. And this is in the discussion. Anybody else?
I'd like to still echo what we said in the past. Karen done one fabulous job with this, and Sally, I don't know how they did it. I figured this year would be more bleak than last and more bleak than the one before that, and then it was. But somehow we get through it. But it's just hard work, and knowledge and a good staff. When you got that, they make us look good. You folks make us look good. And we appreciate it.
I'd certainly like to say also that with the city this year operating with 44 less people, and I want to say a big thank you to all of those citizens who stepped up to the plate, and they participated by serving on one of these two committees, either the Finance Committee or the Services Committee. Y'all did a great job. You gave us some good ideas, and you had some good thoughts on that, and certainly if you've looked at this budget, you can see that we listened to you and we incorporated a lot of your thoughts and ideas. In particular on the elections, which was suggested that we allow the county to run our elections. We took that to heart. We did that. We've reduced our budget in every department by 5%. I don't know how these departments heads have been able to do this, but they did it, and they did a good job, and they're still able to operate. We've called on our employees to contribute to their insurance benefits. Maybe some of you felt like that we needed to do more there, but I think there's a lot of factors involved in that maybe that individual might not know about, and we have to take all these things into consideration. We went ahead and revised the longevity, and everybody that knows me knows quite well that I'm a big supporter of our employees, and I'm a big supporter of our employees because most of our employees are highly technical people. A lot of them may not be highly technical, but we've got a lot of technical employees, and people with technical ability to operate the city are hard to find. We've got all kinds of cities that are around us throughout the state that would like to have the expertise that our technical employees have. And being an employee, I know that they look at other places for employment, and I know a lot of other cities offer better pay and better benefits probably than the city of Morganton, but we have good loyal city employees that have been willing to stay with us, and I say a big thank you to them. I greatly appreciate them. Along with the other recommendations, we've revised our operation up at the community house, done a lot there to, we've cut some hours and reduced some times and made some rearrangements there to, we've made that operation better and a little more cost-wise. We've reduced the commerce operation by 8%, which is much greater than, of course, the 5%. So they've taken a greater hit, and they're continuing to be willing to work with the city and do what they can to help the city with the finances during this period of time when it's difficult to get funding. So I commend them for that. And I think another thing that everybody needs to kind of understand is that we've got, a $2 to $4 million project with our wastewater treatment plant that's mandated by the state. The state mandates these things but doesn't give you any money to help do it. So they mandate to you but say, okay, now it's your responsibility to get the money. So when you're talking about millions of dollars and we're operating on a tight budget anyhow, where's this money supposed to come from? So we're kind of sitting up here as a council grasping at straws trying to figure out where we're going to get funding, and we make some proposals, and I well understand people not being willing to pay additional funds. We live in the city too, and when we sit up here and pay something, we're paying it also. So it's not just us doing it to you type thing. We're doing it to ourselves also when we increase these fees. And I would say that I don't like a lot of things in the budget. In particular, I don't like increasing the electric rates. I don't like increasing the cable rates. But these are sorts of the types of things that when you get an increased bill, we're no longer as a city in these difficult financial times when we don't have the furniture industry and we don't have the textile industry anymore that we can get larger revenues from. So we're not able to absorb these fees anymore. So when we get increased fees, we're naturally going to have to increase some fees just to stay even with the market. So we are in difficult times, and it is a difficult time. And as Harry Truman said, when we're sitting up here doing all this, Harry Truman said, well, the buck stops here. So I guess we're in the same situation. So a decision has to be made, and we're taking responsibility to make those decisions. And I thank you for your time, and I look forward to seeing you and speaking with you throughout the city. So if you've got questions, don't mind the call or ask me when you see me out on the street. Thank you a lot.
Forrest, thank you, Larry. Anyone else? Yeah.
No, we need a motion,
You got a motion on the floor to approve the budget, made by Mel
right, and you haven't
and
voted.
seconded by Alfred, so you got to vote on your budget first.
Right.
Then you're
Then
gonna
we
have to come
haven't-
back with a motion to approve your scheduled fees and charges as your
Amended.
previous motion amended it.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So the budget is approved for 11-12. And, let's see,
Need a motion to adopt your schedule of fees and charges as
So moved.
amended.
As amended by.
as amended.
Second.
With
Who made the motion?
specialty market
Well,
vendors.
I
yeah.
second.
And Larry seconded. Any discussion of that? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Consideration of year-end budget amendments.
This is the thing that we do at the end of each year where we're cleaning up prior to the close of the fiscal year and getting prepared for the audit. We'll take these by fund. That's how we usually do that, if you're okay with that. The first one before you is the general fund. This is probably the smallest year-end budget amendment that we've had since I've worked here, and that's been 18 years. A little over 18 years. It's $120,000. The good news about that is $300,000 of it is state grant dollars coming toward the completion of the soccer complex. So we are increasing our revenue, decreasing our appropriated fund balance, and then making some adjustments in the line items that you see in detail there for you.
So move on general fund.
Second.
Forrest, second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Wastewater?
In wastewater, we are doing the transfer from the capital reserve. We had planned to take a larger amount than this in the budget that we had approved, but have found a way to do it with less, and so we are asking that you approve the transfer in capital reserve, be $250,000, and that's to increase the capital outlay in the wastewater fund.
So moved. Second. Have a motion, we have a second. Any discussion, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Who, opposed? Okay. Next one is the internal service fund.
Well, actually, the
Or is it
capital
capital
reserve
reserve
fund
fund?
we need to
Yeah,
do.
capital reserve fund.
accounting changes this year require that our capital reserve fund that's always been shown separately, when that gets included into our financial statement, it will be incorporated into our general fund. And since the capital reserve fund has never been required to have an annual budget, it operates differently or has in the past, we have to set this up as the annual budget. So it is for $1,783,507.
So moved. All right, we have a motion. I hear a second?
Second.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Internal Service Fund.
This is for fuel. We have missed our fuel budget by about $40,000 this year, even though our records show that we have consumed less fuel than we did last year. The cost has crept up as we are aware. Luckily, that's going back down. We made up for some of that in the other lines in there, but we need an increase in order to cover the fuel overage of $25,000.
So moved.
Second.
Have a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Opposed? Consideration of longevity pay, Sally.
Okay. We talked about at the presentation of the budget, and we have talked about tonight, the difference in the longevity policy and the reduction of those benefits. That is included in our personnel manual, and that's a change in benefits, and that's a change that I can't orchestrate in the personnel manual. That's something you have to do. So this is the actual changes that would happen in the personnel manual, what is attached here, and you've just approved the budget, so technically you've approved this, but I guess you need to act on the new language that will be in the personnel manual.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion. Larry, second.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor say aye. Opposed? Okay, consideration of agreement between Western Piedmont Council of Governments and the City of Morganton for the provision of technical assistance services in the operation of the City of Morganton's Geographic Information System, GIS, July 1, 2011 to June 30th, 2012. Sally.
For several years now, you're aware that we have been contracting with the COG in order to do our GIS work. This is a continuation of that. It is for less hours. We've continued to reduce those hours as budgets have become tighter. You approved this money as a part of the budget, but this is an approval of the contract. Since we do not meet in July, this will start July 1, so I ask that you approve it to become effective July 1.
So moved.
All right, we have the motion. I hear a second.
Second.
I have a second. Any discussion, John?
Yes, I think, Sally, it might be a good idea to, just for those watching on TV, to explain how we use this GIS service. You know, it's used by several departments.
This is the Geographic Information System, and it is, as we are gathering data and putting it in the layers in the computer, it's just like the tax system at the county, and we're able to look at tax map information, utility information, locations of utility taps, locations of utility lines, all different kinds of things that we can gather that information out in the field, dump it in the computer, my technical evaluation and assessment of this, and then our staff people can actually look at that, whether it's a drainage line, Nikki's sitting over there laughing, whether it's a drainage line, an electric line, a cable line, a water line, a sewer line, and the more information that we can ultimately build, the better our answers are for people without even having to go out in the field sometimes. Does that help?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, we have a motion. We have a second. Any more discussion?
Who made the motion?
Alfred made the motion and Larry seconded that, I think.
I didn't catch that one. Okay.
Here, John, one.
All in favor say aye. Opposed?
Here.
Once again, before we adjourn, Sally, you have anything you want to say?
I'll say that we think that resurfacing and paving on the bypass is going to begin this week.
Sanford Drive.
Sanford Drive, we think it's going to be Wednesday or Thursday. It was supposed to happen last week and has been postponed. And we just are unaware of what hours during the day that may take place, but we could experience some traffic backups up Green Street, especially when they're working on that end.
Now, even though I think I mentioned it earlier, is Dan, we do have an increase in electric, but let me tell you that I think it's money And I know people hurt today, but knowing how we treat that department, and you run that department, and the people that work for you work in that department, we have a great group of guys, and people get their money's worth in the city of Morganton, especially when those lightning storms go through the city, and you guys are out there quick. And I know that there are a lot of Charlotte people wishing they were in the city of Morganton and had city electric. All of our departments step up to the plate, and I greatly appreciate it on behalf of me and this city council. We sometimes don't always say it, but we do appreciate it. And Karen, appreciate the job you did on the budget. Lamanna, thank you for being here. And cable department is doing its wonderful thing, and we want to keep on doing it. Turn the telephones on. Meeting's adjourned.